Hello, students. Imagine your class teacher has asked some of you to set up a food stall at the school fair. Now, all that you will need at this food stall will be a table and a stall, someone to prepare the food and sell that food, someone to collect the money to buy the ingredients. Now, here is my question: who will be that someone who will collect the money to buy the ingredients? Who will be that someone who will prepare the food and sell the food in the stalls? Who will designate the duties to the other students in the class? And above all, who will be that one person who will take the responsibility in case the food stall makes a loss? Well, definitely that person has to be above a school coordinator. You can compare him to an entrepreneur. So, if you can just, in our own little way, make up a definition on an entrepreneur, he is one who brings everything together, makes important decisions, organizes all the resources, and above all, he's willing to take the risk whether you get a profit or a loss. Well, my dear students, this is Sir Thomas here. Welcome to my channel, Sir Thomas Tutors. Now, in today's lesson, we'll be doing the fourth and the final factor of production, that is the enterprise or organization. Well, we have seen in the other factors of production, land provides natural resources, labor provides human effort, capital provides your tools and machinery. Now, there's someone has to be there to bring all these factors together. And that person who brings these factors together, that is your land, labor, capital, is called an entrepreneur. So, in a nutshell, who is an entrepreneur? He is one who organizes production. Two, he hires labor. Three, he arranges the required capital. Fourth, he acquires land wherever and whenever necessary. Five, he makes the business decisions. And above all, my dear students, it is he who is there to take the risk, whether he makes a profit or a loss. He bears those risks and uncertainties. Let us move on to see what the text has to say. Now, according to Frank Knight, an entrepreneur is a person, I repeat, according to Frank Knight, an entrepreneur is a person who performs a dual function of risk taking and control. In simpler words, a person who takes decisions and bears risks. Now, to make this easier, let me give an example of Lalit Motors. Now, Lalit Motors want to manufacture electric cars. Now, if you look at the chart in your slide, now all that Lalit Motors will require to have to manufacture the electric cars will be first to buy land to build a factory, two, to set up machinery, three, to hire engineers and workers, four, to get the necessary raw materials, five, to advertise the cars. It is here that once he has advertised the cars, people knowing that this car exists in the market, people will come to the store, see the vehicle, and in case they need it, they will purchase it. But what if you have a situation where nobody buys the car? Who will suffer the losses? Not the workers, not the landlord, not the banks. The one and only one person who will bear the loss will be Mr. Lalit. Why? Because he is an entrepreneur. He has taken that risk to manufacture the car, no matter what is the certainty of tomorrow. He did not go to see what will happen tomorrow, but yet he chose to take that risk to go into manufacturing electric cars. And that's why he is there to stand by his loss. And that's why we call Mr. Lalit as an entrepreneur. Hence, my dear students, the task of bearing risk is called an enterprise. And the person who bears this risk of business is called an entrepreneur. Right? So far, so good. So you got the meaning of enterprise and you've got the meaning of an entrepreneur. Enterprise, the task of bearing the risk. Entrepreneur, the person who bears the risk of business. Fine so far? Let's move on with the characteristics of an entrepreneur. Now, firstly, the entrepreneur employs other factors. Let me have an interactive session. I'll ask you couple, who hires the workers? Entrepreneurs. You? Who purchases machines? Entrepreneurs. Very good. Who rents the land? Entrepreneurs. Now, what do you see in this? All the factors have been hired by the entrepreneur. Then what is the role of an entrepreneur? The entrepreneur is not the hired factor of production. I repeat, all the other factors are hired factors of production, whereas the entrepreneur is not the hired factor of production, right? An entrepreneur's income is residual. Workers receive wages every month. Landlord receives the rent. Banks receive interest. So what do entrepreneurs get? When will the entrepreneur earn? Only after paying everyone else will the balance come to the entrepreneur. I repeat, only after paying everyone else. The money left over after all expenses is the residual income, right? Understood what is residual income? The money that remains after paying everyone else. Now, for an entrepreneur, his profit is uncertain. Can he earn only profit? No. Does he get a fixed income? No. But maybe he may get a profit or a loss. Yes. My dear students, the reward for the other factors of production is always positive. I repeat, the reward for the other factors of production are always positive. But the reward for an entrepreneur can either be positive, that is when he earns a profit, can be zero, that's when he gets no profit, no loss, and at times negative when he bears the loss. Your fourth characteristics of an entrepreneur is risk bearing as a function. Now, if you look at the example illustrated in the slide, suppose an ice cream shop is to be opened. What if that day it rains very heavily? Definitely sales will drop. What if alongside you have 2 or 3 other ice cream parlors? Once again, your sales will drop because competition increases. Another risk factor, just imagine the milk prices have gone up. So the cost of making the ice cream will also go up. Obviously, your sales once again will drop. Now, this is the risk that the entrepreneur is taking every time he ventures into business. So these are all business risks. Now, let's see the difference between the entrepreneur and the organizer. Now, you've got 2 types of production process, a small scale production process and a large scale production process. Now, in a small scale production process, the entrepreneur and organizer is the same person. He is that one person who organizes and bears the risk. There is no difference between an enterprise and an organization. And for an example out there, you have a sole proprietor or a small shop owner. On the other side, for large scale production, you've got the entrepreneur and the organizer are 2 different persons. Shareholders bears the risk. They both share separate functions, and the example out here is of a joint stock company. Moving on to see the difference between a laborer and an entrepreneur. A laborer receives wages, an entrepreneur earns reward as a factor. A laborer receives wages, an entrepreneur earns profit as a reward. A laborer does not bear business risk. An entrepreneur bears all business risk. A laborer performs specific duties. An entrepreneur plans, organizes all business activities. A laborer has limited responsibility. An entrepreneur has an overall responsibility. A laborer works under the direction of an entrepreneur or his employer, whereas the entrepreneur makes important decisions and direct others to work towards the production process. Well, we now move on to see the functions of an entrepreneur, a very important question from the point of view of board exams. What are the functions of an entrepreneur? And your first function is a function of risk bearing. Now, this is a very and the most important function of an entrepreneur. Imagine launching a new smartphone. What if the customer doesn't like it? Poor sales. What a better model is introduced? He faces competition. What if technology changes? His features are outdated. So you see, it is here that the entrepreneur bears all risks. Your second function is the decision making function. Now, every business, my dear students, requires a series of decisions, namely, what to produce, how much to produce, how to produce, when to produce, for whom to produce. Now, all these questions are asked by an entrepreneur before going into the production process. That is where he will decide after answering these questions. And all these decisions are taken by the entrepreneur. Your third function is a function of coordination and supervision. Think of an orchestra conductor. Do you think that conductor plays all the instruments in the orchestra? Certainly not, my dear students. It is he who puts together those instruments to give you that melodious music, right? In a similar manner, the entrepreneur puts those factors of production together. He himself is not doing any work personally. He's putting those factors together by taking that risk. Okay, so what does he do? He coordinates with the workers, he coordinates with those machines and raw materials so that production, which he is looking out for, runs smoothly. The next function of the entrepreneur is the distributive function. Now, the entrepreneur has to decide the reward that each factor production has to get, namely the workers' wages, manager's salary, incentives, bonuses. Wherever there is a reward to be given in the production process, the entrepreneurs there to distribute those rewards. Thus, you see the distributive factor of the entrepreneur as a function, innovative function. Now, innovation simply means building up on the product that is already being invented. Now, before I move into this function, let me just differentiate between invention and innovation. Now, what is invention? Invention is creating something new, inventing something new. Innovation is building up or bettering the product that is already being invented. Let me give an example of your smartphone. The very first day the smartphone came into the market, it was invented. From then till today, the phone has gone through various stages of bettering itself. Now, that is innovation. So, you see, every 6 months in the market, you see new cars, you see new phones. And every time you see a new phone or a new vehicle, you'll see something different in that product. That is innovation, right, my dear students? So, a successful entrepreneur constantly looks for what? He looks for better products. He's looking out for better technology and above all, better production method. In this manner, innovation makes the business grow. Moving on to see the role and importance of an entrepreneur. How is an entrepreneur important in economic development? Now, entrepreneurs play a very important role in the development of every economy. The very first point is that he is responsible for an increase in output. The more entrepreneurs a country has, the more business is created. In what way? You've got more factories, more goods, more services. Now, what's what does this result to? This results in increasing the country's national income. Okay? Therefore, as output of an economy increases, as GDP increases, your national income will increase. Mobilization of savings. Students save their money in piggy banks. Adults save their money in various banks. Now, this money is channelized to shares, to debentures, to investments, and this money is used to build up industries. Thus, you see, saving becomes a productive investment. The entrepreneur helps in generating employment. Whenever a new factory opens, what do you see? Engineers are hired, workers are hired, drivers are hired, accountants are hired. So, what is he doing basically? He's creating more and more employment. Thus, one entrepreneur can create hundreds or thousands of jobs in a particular region. Your fourth importance of an entrepreneur is balance regional development. To reduce the migration from rural to urban areas, today entrepreneurs have been asked to move into places where you can develop them, whereby once every region of the country is developed, the country will progress. Migration will reduce. Eventually, when entrepreneurs begin their industries in rural areas, what happens? It creates more jobs. It builds new roads, more schools, new schools. Thereby, economic development in these regions start getting better, whereby people start progressing, right? So it's very essential that the entrepreneur helps the nation in balancing regional development. An entrepreneur helps in reducing dependence on other countries. If Indian entrepreneurs start producing products locally, definitely India will be self-reliant, right? So, for example, if India start making their own mobile phones, their electric vehicles, solar panels, once all this is made in India, do you think India needs to depend on other nations? Not at all. So, entrepreneurs help the nation in reducing its dependence on other countries. So, my dear students, before we conclude this class, let me just recap the four factors of production. First, what does land provide? Land provides resources. What does labor provide? Labor provides the workers' work, the workers' effort in making the product. What does capital provide? Capital provides the tools, machines required in making the product. And finally, what does the entrepreneur do? He gives direction. First, direction. Two, he helps in the decision making process. Three, he is that innovator who's constantly giving you new and new products every 6 months. But that is not so easy. It comes with a cost. And what is the cost? The cost of risk bearing. It is there, he is standing in that battle. Whether he makes a profit or not, he is there to bear that risk, right? And that's why we call the entrepreneur captain of the industry. Well, before we conclude this lesson, let me just recap and give you some tips from the point of your board exams. Now, if you look at the chapter on enterprise or the topic on enterprise, to me, there are just four major questions. Okay? You learn these four questions, and that's given to you in the video. One is define your entrepreneur. Your second question is characteristics of an entrepreneur. Third is the functions of an entrepreneur. And the fourth question is the role and importance of an entrepreneur in economic development. Okay, so now if you look at the way I have written the answers, I want you to do the same thing. First thing, when you are asked for a definition, if you have studied the definition from the point of an economist's view, please quote the economist, quote unquote his words and not your words. I repeat, if you are asked for a definition and if you have learned the definition as per what the economist has to say, please quote unquote. But for any chance you have forgotten the definition, you are not sure of the definition, please do not quote his name, do not quote unquote. Just write in your own words the sentence of how you define the entrepreneur. Now, for longer questions, I know it is volume. Just imagine learning land, labor, capital, enterprise, and from there you got your definitions, from there you got your characteristics, your functions, and so on. How do I study them? I do it the point form way. Learn the points. So you see, my answer, which I prepared and given you in the slide, is self-explanatory. So you learn the points, and for that point, you learn one sentence. That sentence which you learn for that point is a catch sentence. Okay, so even if you go blank, that sentence will come instantly to your mind. You will not forget the sentence. So what do I ask you to do is you first learn all the points that come under that topic, and for every point you have a line to remember on that point. Now, once you have learned those points, definitely you will get the answer at that point of time when you write the paper. So don't think, oh my God, sir, I'm forgetting the answer. How do I get? No, 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 no. When you go for your paper, those points will come to your mind. Okay, that's for that. Now, from the board point of view, you've got your 2 marks and your 5 marks answers. Now, for the 2 marks answer, if you've been asked to write a definition, please write the definition. Okay, if you know the economist, please write his name, quote unquote. If not, leave it as it is. Or you may get write any 2 relevant points or any 2 points on whatever the answer is asked for. Now, for the 5 marks answer, you either write the definition or a sentence. You introduce that answer first. Write one line on the answer, either through a definition or a sentence. Then 5 clear points with a short explanation on that point. Please, my dear students, if you only write the points, you will just get half the marks. If you write only the points, you will get half the marks. So please make sure you write the point and build up on that point, and one line to conclude your answer. And before we leave, how about giving me a like and share this video with your other friends? And if you've yet not subscribed, do it right away. See you soon for my next class.